I'm Ken Canion. How are you? I'm the host of Love, Lust, and Lies. And today's topic is something really, really deep, y'all. Because I want to be transparent. Everyone knows that I try to be transparent. I mean, if you go back and listen to some of my lives, I just tell the truth, tell it as I see it. Some of the times it might not put me in a favorable light, but the truth is, I think people want authenticity and they want transparency. So today I want to be transparent. Have you ever been in an argument? And some people on the calls, some people in my lives have been divorced before, and some of them have had problems in relationships in the past. Well, every relationship is going to have some difficulty at some point. As my mama used to say, just live long enough. And the question will be is, can your relationship survive the times when things aren't so good? We all can stay together. We all can work it out when stuff's good. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about me and my wife. And in the caption, I put $7 saved my marriage. And it literally did, y'all. And so I'm going to tell you that story in a minute. And during this time, when I was going through all of this, when my wife and I were going through all of this, we decided there was something that happened because we were thinking about getting a divorce. And if anybody's ever been married, you ever been in a relationship, and you thought about a time when things weren't as good, you think about, wow, did I make the wrong choice? Did I decide, should I have not gotten into this? And some people have decided to get a divorce. I get it. And sometimes that has to be the end result. But today, we're going to talk about how you can actually resolve conflict in a way that can save your relationship, because it saved mine. So let me tell you the story. 12 years ago, about 12 to 13 years ago, I had just gotten off The Biggest Loser, y'all. And for those of you who don't know my story, I'm a motivational speaker. I've been speaking for a long time. And I've written, 9 books, this is our 9th book. And during that time, I was speaking, I was traveling around the country a lot. And my weight got out of control. And I decided that I had to do something different. So I applied for The Biggest Loser, the show that was on NBC at the time. Many of you know that story, but what you don't know is during that time, right after that, my wife and I were going through a tough time. One of the reasons why is because when I decided to do The Biggest Loser, I also decided to turn away, because remember, I said I was speaking around the country. So when I decided to do The Biggest Loser, I actually turned away close to $50,000 worth of business. Because I decided that what difference will it make if I have all of this money, because I used to think if you got enough money, you'll be happy, but I don't have my health, okay? And so what I would say is at that point, I'm like, I didn't have any money. So I'm trying to get my health back. And so me and my wife at that time, we were just beefing. It wasn't necessarily about The Biggest Loser, but every little thing, everything, she either thought I wasn't listening, I wasn't communicating. I thought she wasn't listening, wasn't communicating. So the truth is, I didn't like her very much, and she didn't like me very much. And this went on for a good little while, to the point where every time we saw each other, every time we were around each other, it was an argument. All right. And so I got to the point where I was thinking, you know what? I've made a mistake. And I'm sure she was thinking the same thing. And I was thinking, well, you know what? If it comes down to it, I'm going to get a divorce if it comes down to it. And I was just thinking, I didn't see any way out. She thought the same thing. But during this time, there was one thing that stuck out in my memory about it. I'll never forget her saying, she said one thing that made me think. She said, one day, this is in the midst of an argument, y'all. I don't even know where this came from. But in the midst of an argument, she said, one day we're going to help other couples. Now, What I was thinking at the time was, oh, yeah, right. I don't believe that shit. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, we can't even help ourselves. How are we going to help other couples? So let's fast forward. So one particular day, on this day, we were beefing. We were arguing so much to the point where it just did not matter. So here's what she said. She just blurted out, can we go for a ride? Can we go for a ride? So we went for a ride. I don't know where we were going. I didn't have any money because, as I told y'all just got our Biggest Loser. I didn't have any money. I was angry about that. I was angry about a whole bunch of stuff. So she said to me, I never forget it, we were riding down Random Road, and she said this. She said, can we get something to eat? Now, we both were hungry at the time. And she said, can we get something to eat? And I said, I don't have any money. I looked in my pocket, and I said, I don't have a $7. And I was being facetious. I was like, I have a $7. I don't want to buy you nothing. I ain't using my $7 on us, our relationship. I'm done. She said, okay, let's go to Wendy's. Wendy's had, at the time, they had like a junior cheeseburger. And it was $3.99 a piece. You get fries, small drink, and it was just enough. It was $2.99. And I never get it. $7 was just enough to get it. So when we were going through the drive-through, she said to me this. I never forget it. She said, after we got our food, she said, pull over in the parking lot, in the parking space. I pulled over in the parking space. She sat there and looked me in the face and said this. I don't know what's wrong with us, but I do know this. We're going to sit here until we work it out. And I'm thinking to myself, sit here till we work it out. Yo, I'm going to sit here until I eat this food and I'm gone. But she said, we're going to sit here till we work it out. We sat there for 2 hours and 37 minutes. And in those 2 hours and 37 minutes, we came up with a conflict resolution system that saved our marriage. We have used this conflict resolution system on other couples, other relationships. Y'all, one relationship that I used it on where the guy had hit his woman, and he wasn't that kind of guy. He just did it. He made a mistake. He did it one time. I used this system on him, saved their relationship. They have a baby now, newborn baby, got married, love each other. So today, what I want to do is give you don't have to be married, but I want to give you this conflict resolution. I want to show you how to solve conflict in a simple way, y'all. But before we do that, I want to go over what happens to people and why it happens. Is that fair enough? All right, y'all. This is one of those fire and brimstone type of, talks, but it's important because the truth is how good your relationship will ultimately be will be determined how you can resolve conflict and move forward. If you cannot resolve conflict and move forward from it, your relationship won't last. And we see it's evident. It's over 50% divorce rate in America. Most people, they don't get married and say, you know what? In 3 years, we're going to get a divorce. But within those 3 years, let's go ahead and get married. 3 years, we're done. People don't say that. They don't plan for that. But they also don't plan for the conflict. And so today, I'm going to show you how to solve conflict in your relationships. All right. So the first thing you got to understand is this. And this conflict resolution works whether it's your wife, whether it's your girlfriend, whether it's somebody on the job, whether it's your best friend. You're going to have conflict in your life. If you live long enough, you're going to have conflict. And how you resolve that conflict will determine the quality of your relationships. So let's get busy. First thing you got to understand is when you're in conflict, and y'all know this because I'm this type of person. The truth of the matter is you don't really give a crap about you don't care about solving the problem. What you want to do, your first instinct is to be right. I want to be right because the way the human mind works is the human mind works in what we call congruency. And congruency means that no matter what position we take, if we take a position, we have to stand by that position, even if the position is wrong. So what happens, y'all ever been around somebody and you know what they're saying don't even make sense? They know it doesn't make sense. But because they have said it so long, Because they've said it so long, what happens is they have to stand by that position because it's congruent with the decision they made earlier. So you know people who make a decision and they know the decision is crazy, but they stand by that decision. And you're thinking to yourself, you know this shit is wrong that you're saying, I just don't understand it. That's called congruency, y'all. So we will stand by something even when we know it's wrong because we made the decision. So you got to understand why people do what we do. All of us do that. So our objective is to win the conflict. A lot of times you go in, you want to just win. So you'll say anything. And sometimes you'll destroy the relationship to win the argument. And what I want to show you is you don't have to do that. I'm going to show you how to resolve it, maintain your dignity, and do something else. So there are two objectives when you are conflict resolution, when you're resolving a conflict. Two objectives. Number one, the first objective is to maintain the relationship. Y'all, if the relationship isn't worth maintaining, then you should get rid of it regardless of the conflict. But number one is maintain the relationship. So when me and my wife, we were arguing all the time, we were beefing all the time. All we wanted to do was just win. Who wanted to win? I was like, I wanted to win. What I was saying was right. She wanted to win. What she was saying was right. And so what I'm saying is, first thing is you keep in mind your objective is to maintain the relationship. Maintain the relationship. And then the second thing is you want to resolve the conflict. Because here's the deal. If you resolve the conflict and the relationship is destroyed, you win nothing. If you maintain the relationship and the conflict isn't solved, you win nothing. So the key is what we're going to do is we're going to, number one, solve the conflict. Number two, and maintain the relationship. That's what we plan to do today. So I tell people, once you think about that, so let me share with you one other thing before I get you to the steps of how to resolve any conflict. Number one, most of us focus on the conflict. And let me show you how the human mind works. Whatever you focus on, that gets magnified in your mind. So for instance, when you focus on the problem, you ain't lifting up the toilet, you don't cut the grass, you don't take out the garbage, you don't do this, you ain't giving me enough sex, you don't give me oral sex, you don't do this, you don't do that, and you don't do this, and my ex-girlfriend or my ex-guy used to do this. And what happens is the way the brain works is this. The more you focus on something, the more that gets magnified. It's called your reticular activating system. Everybody has one. I'll give you a prime example. You've seen it before. And I've used this example, but it makes sense. You ever wanted a car on a lot? And as soon as you've never seen this car before, you've never seen it, all of a sudden, you go on the lot, you get the car. You like, I got my dream car. Nobody got no car just like this. Soon as you drive off, your brain, that what you want, your reticular activating system becomes acutely aware. It focuses on that what you want. So now you drive off the lot, and all of a sudden you say, wait a minute, I ain't never seen this car before. There go one. There's one. There's one. You see the car everywhere. Now all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I did not see this car prior to me getting the car. Same thing. Whatever the mind focuses on, the reticular activating system brings that into your awareness. So what does that mean? If you're focusing on a problem in your relationship, okay, that which like your man doesn't do, he doesn't tell you you're beautiful, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. And then what happens is so you begin to focus on that. You begin to focus on the things that he does not do. He begins to focus on the things you don't do. And so now all your mind does is focus on the problems in your relationship. All right, cool. So what happens is when that happens, that's why a lot of times people feel like we've gone too far. The relationship, it's not salvageable. We don't have anything in common. We can't communicate. It's not that you can't communicate. It's not that you don't have anything in common. All it is because you focused on it so long, the brain has magnified it so big, it looks insurmountable. And the truth of the matter is, it's not. It's not insurmountable, but that's what you focused on. So That's what me and my wife were doing. We was beefing. And I'm thinking to myself, she is not the person I thought she was when we got married. I'm sure she thought the same thing about me. He is not the man that I thought I was married. So, that being said, that day when we sat there and came up with this system, I'm going to share with you, every single one of you, how to solve any conflict in your life. But I have to give a caveat. Here's the caveat. You have to be willing. You have to be willing to solve it. You have to be willing. You have to be willing to solve it. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're unwilling to solve the problem, if you're unwilling to maintain a relationship, if you're unwilling to do those things, then I don't care what kind of conflict resolution I give you, it's not going to work. But if you're willing, if you say my relationship is worth fighting for, if you say I cannot understand why we can't get on the same page, I'm going to show you how to solve that problem. Here we go. It ain't going to even take me, and it's not going to take me long to do it. I'm just going to show you how to do it. Here we go. All right, here we go. All right, first thing, the simple system that me and my wife created when we were sitting there for those 2 hours and 37 minutes. We sat there and she asked me one question. I was so angry that day. She said to me one question. Here it is. And I'm going to ask it to you. She said, what could I have said to make you feel different? Now, wait a minute, y'all. I'm mad as hell at the time. I'm mad. I don't even know what I'm mad about. I just know we've been beefing so long. We can't communicate. We ain't having sex. We ain't doing this. And I'm thinking, and I'm questioning why I got married. So when this happened, so she asked me that question. It made me pause. She said, what could I have said to make you feel different? I stood there like a deer in headlights. And I said, I don't know. I don't even know. And then it hit me. I had been mad. I had been angry so long, I didn't even know why I was mad. I didn't even know why. Some of us do know why. Some of us know a person that has offended us, and but then we adding on one thing on top of another thing, and then it becomes so big. So here's what we did. We came up with this system. Here's how it goes. It's a 3-step system, y'all. It works, and I'm gonna tell you what to do. If you're willing, it saved my marriage. It can save your relationship. But remember what I said, both parties have to be willing. You have to be willing. So here's the first premise. What we came up with. The first thing is this. You have to accept this, that if a person feels something, it's valid. Now notice what I just said. If they feel it, it's valid. Because now, I didn't say it was true. I didn't say what they were thinking was true. I said, if a person feels something, it's valid. That means it's worth addressing. Because a lot of times my wife used to say stuff like she felt like I didn't care. She felt like I wasn't this, I wasn't that. And I'm like, that don't even make sense. I'm working my ass off for you and you don't believe that? Well, when we came up with the idea that if a person feels it, it's valid, then I am forced to listen to what she has to say. So, okay, so that's the premise by which we start. If a person doesn't mean that it's true, doesn't mean that it's false. It just simply means that it's valid. Is that fair, y'all? Is that fair? Okay, so here's the system. So my wife and I came up with this one system, and here's how it works. We had came up 3 steps. Step 1, when we sat there, we said, okay, step 1 is you have to listen for resolution, not delusion. Okay, now what do I mean by listen for resolution, not delusion? So my wife, we came up with this thing, and she said this. She said, okay, we're going to solve our problems. Here's how we solve it. First thing is the other party. So we take one issue at a time. Listen to what I just said. You take one issue at a time. You do not bring 10 issues to the table. We brought one issue to the table. And here's what we said. Each person gets a chance to talk. It might be 10 minutes. It might be 20 minutes. But every person gets a chance to talk about the issue. Now, here's what the person that is communicating their truth. The other person has to listen for resolution, not delusion. Here's what I mean by that. That means that the first thing when the person is talking, so my wife says, when she asked me that question, she said, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to be quiet. I am not going to try. Number one, I'm not going to defend myself. Okay. Number two, I'm not going to deflect. What happens is we start defending ourselves. Well, you don't take out the trash. Well, you don't either. You don't wash the dishes. So, but during this system, during this time, you cannot defend yourself. All you can do is listen to the other person's truth. Okay, you cannot deflect. You cannot say, well, such and such did this, well, the kids came. You cannot do that. And the third thing is you have to listen all the way to the end. So what happens is, so when my wife was saying, when she let me go first, she said, I started speaking my truth. She didn't say one word. She didn't try to defend herself. She didn't try to deflect. She didn't try to protect herself. She let me talk all the way through. Because remember what she said was, if you feel this, it is valid. And I said, okay. So I just started spilling what I was spilling. But it was only on one subject though. I'm spilling what I'm spilling about this one subject. So get this, y'all. Then step two. So she let me spill it all. If it was 20 minutes, it was 30 minutes. She sat there and just looked at me. And she said, she just looked at me intently. She didn't frown. All she did was acknowledge what I felt. Y'all, this was a powerful step, because before I didn't feel like I was heard. I didn't feel like she could hear me. I didn't feel like she was listening to me. And then that was the first time I felt that she was listening to me. And then after I finished, we went to step two. This made all the difference in the world. Here's what she said. In step two, the person that's receiving the download, they can only ask one question, just one question. And that question is, and she asked the one question. She said, okay, I want you to tell me what I can do to make you feel different about this issue. Okay, now why is that important? That is important because for so long, the person who's mad has been focusing on the problem. Now, when she asked that one question, it forces my mind to change courses and begin focusing on the solution. So when she said that, I actually started thinking. Once she asked the question, she shut up. She was quiet again. And I started thinking. I said, okay, I would like for you to do this. I would like for you to do this. Because if you do this, it'll make me feel like you appreciate what I'm doing. She said, okay. I said, okay, I would like for you to do this. And then all of a sudden, she began to smile and said, I can do that. And then I started feeling better because, number one, now I felt like she was focused on my problem. I got to speak my truth. She was listening. And now I felt like she wanted to help solve it. That led to step three. Then she said this, and this is when the system was born. She said, okay, let's me and you and I sit here and create a solution together. Let me tell you what that does. When she said that, what that does is that makes both parties begin to focus on the solution together, whereas now both parties are not focused on the problem. And so we sat there. I said, okay, here's what I'd like for you to do. When this happens, I want this. She says, okay, when this happens, I want this. Now, again, y'all, we ain't said nothing about her issues. Nothing. We just focused on me. Then it was her turn to do the exact same thing. We just took one issue at a time. And on that day, we resolved two issues. One issue she had and one issue I had. But we both became invested. We both became vested in the process because now the other person, number one, they felt like their feelings, emotions were validated. Remember what I said. If a person feels it, it's valid. Doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's true. It just means it's valid. Number two, now the other person feels like the other person is listening to them. And number three, they feel like the other person has helped them solve the problem. Y'all, we have used this. It is simple. It is simplistic. But when I tell you it works on this level because every human being wants to believe that their voice matters. Every human being wants to believe that somebody is listening to them. And every human being in a relationship wants to believe that the other person is in it with them to solve the problem. And y'all, that's the Canion. That is the Canion conflict resolution system. It works. It works. It works. And we have used it to help other couples all day long. And now, 12 years later, what she said was, we were going to help other couples. And let me tell you this, we've helped not only couples, singles, people who want to be in a relationship. It's complicated. We done helped so many people. Now I'm on a live talking about relationships. Who knew? Who knew a fool like me would? Now I knew I could help people because I've been helping people in personal development, but in relationships, who knew that the person just 12 years ago, I thought I was going to have an unsuccessful relationship. Now, everybody, a lot of people want to have a relationship just like us. And we got a new book coming out talking about this process and other things. And I'm so excited that $7, the last $7 I had, y'all, she told me, pull over into that parking space and $7 saved our marriage. The system works. And if you are interested in it, you're interested in how to resolve conflict, you beefing in your relationship, what I would say is like, hey, inbox me. You know, maybe you need to book a session, book a discovery session so we can see what's wrong. Because a lot of times it's not as deep as we think it is. It's just our emotions are involved in it. And so we'll be glad to help you. If you're interested in that, do that. But other than that, y'all, that's all I got for y'all today. Here's your word of the day. And everybody, we ain't got no homework for today, but here's your word of the day. Every seed planted grows into something. Every seed. Whatever you water, whatever you nurture it with, if you nurture it with negativity, if you nurture it with conflict, if you nurture it with, optimism, whatever you nurture it with, that's what it grows into. And many of you out there, many of you want to have a relationship, want to have a life of abundance. And look, that's my mission in life. That's what I'm here to do. And y'all, if either one of you are interested in that, just inbox me. If you got a question, I'll be more than happy to help you. But other than that, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for joining me during my time. This has been Love, Lust, and Lies. I am your host, Ken Canion. I am